Tender is about to swing into action as his fellow workers help him on with his testing helmet, making sure there's a snug fit. Tender has devised his own method for testing brick and concrete. There he goes, testing the strength of this brand new smokestack designed to last 100 years. We salute Tender Noggin, concrete tester par excellence.
Scientists say the behavior of chimpanzees, members of the ape family, is determined by learning and experience. He's had his experience, and the cat is having hers. Oops, someone's coming. They aren't waiting to see who, and neither are we.
reserved gross act. It's
Oh,
reserved.
did you reserve? Okay.
Yeah. There's lots of seats. Just tell me when you want to start. Is that a Jewish new? Like new? No. Very, very good. I have a big series in the city. We're doing a thing with the city of New York, Museum of the City of New York. We just went on to the. Are you coming up yet? Good morning and welcome. That was Steve Sterner. Film Forums, our longtime silent movie accompanist, also a great Yiddish actor, by the way. You know, Rebecca, oh yeah. Yes, I remember from the shtetl, yes. You know, Rebecca said, you know, we're going to have all these people. I said, you know, you invite people to, and, you know, when we do a sellout, it's never really sold out. People don't come, and then we always have like 20, 30. We have standby lines, and we see 20 extra people. So don't worry, there'll be people who don't show up. Well, you all showed up. And that shows you how beloved Rick was. And by the way, I've seen so many people I haven't seen in decades, and I can't. Karen and Bambi Everson and Chris Horak, Ed Hulse and Mark Heller and Jerry Orlando. I don't think Leonard and Alice have ever been here. And it's really a joy to see everybody. You know, when Rebecca and Kathy asked if we would host Rick's memorial here at Film Forum, we said, of course, no question about it, because Rick was my friend for nearly 40 years and one of a handful of people who really helped me make the repertory program here a success early on. But in all those years, Rick rarely stepped foot in here. I can only think of him coming here maybe 4 or 5 times. And it's not because he didn't like the place. It's because he'd seen everything. When Rick did show up, I knew I was showing something really rare and special. It's like when I first met the great William K. Everson at the Thalia in the early 80s. Now, there was nothing at the Thalia Bill hadn't seen. There was nothing in the world Bill hadn't seen. So what could he have possibly wanted to see at the Thalia that day? Well, that day, we were premiering a comedy called The Comeback Trail, which was a brand new movie, never before screened, starring Buster Crabbe. That's the only kind of thing that would have gotten Bill Everson to the Thalia. Rick was, of course, one of Everson's many acolytes, and it was like that with him, too. I had to be showing something really special to get him to schlep from downtown, where he worked, all the way down here. For the record, it's about a 20-minute subway ride. So on those occasions when Rick emailed or phoned to say he'd like to come down, I put the staff on high alert. We rolled out the red carpet. He got a free pass, of course, but also a reserved seat with his name on it, and unlimited concession privileges, which he took full advantage of, I might add. But I don't remember ever seeing Rick actually sit through an entire movie, not a conventional one. Even in Syracuse, you might see him standing behind the last row for a few minutes, checking out the audience, and then he'd suddenly disappear, because he'd already seen everything he was showing in Syracuse. I get the feeling that he wasn't the kind of guy who rewatched The Wizard of Oz every year. So what kind of stuff did Rick come here to see? It was the oddball stuff that I did just for this theater. Our reconstruction of the lost soundtrack of Capra's The Donovan Affair, our stage reading of the lost pre-code movie Convention City, our staging of Orson Welles' Too Much Johnson with his film and an integrated stage performance, stuff like that. Stuff that didn't otherwise exist. And it was only that kind of thing that could get him down here from Broadway and 54th Street, or even on occasion from Jamaica. Anything else he either had or could borrow from a fellow collector. Now, there are 2 kinds of collectors. There are those who hold back the jewels of their collection hostage as some sort of power trip. Sometimes they won't even let you see something unless they can get something in return. We'll call those kinds of collectors David Bradleyans. And then there are the other kinds of collectors who are not only generous to a fault, but downright evangelical in spreading the love. We'll call those collectors the Eversonians. Rick was, of course, an Eversonian through and through. If we needed a rare print from the Streamline collection, he and Mark Trost would get it for us.
If I needed to see a rare pre-code movie, he'd make me a VHS tape, which later became DVDs, which became links, and then files I didn't understand at all, and which I couldn't open. He'd squeeze as much on a VHS tape as possible. They always had at least 6 other movies I'd never seen before, and a lot of commercials I'd forgotten about, like the ones for Crazy Eddie. I think he's been taping off TV since the 70s, one of the first. It's amazing how this retro generation of ours embraced the digital age in order to supplement their analog film and audio collection beyond their wildest dreams. I once told Rick I was a fan of the radio show The Great Gildersleeve, starring Harold Perry. The next day, I got an email from him with a file attached. I opened the file, and inside, there were all 552 half-hour episodes, plus reams of articles and photos on the series. You know, I've been to film festivals all over the world, but the one I have the most fond memories of is Syracuse. I went for 10 straight years. The Cannes Film Festival, it was not. It wasn't even in Syracuse. It was held each year at a Holiday Inn in Liverpool, and I'm not talking about the Beatles' Liverpool. Liverpool, New York, is basically a highway lined with fast food restaurants. But Syracuse, as we called it, because who can remember the official name? Cinefest, Cinevent, Cinexcuse, I don't know. Syracuse wasn't really a film festival. It was a community, more like a living room filled with friends from all over the world. And unlike most of the world's film festivals, it wasn't about the ego of the organizers self-congratulating themselves at every screening. Phil Serling, the face of the festival, was just a regular guy, as is Jerry Orlando. And Rick, who programmed the whole thing every year, quietly remained in the background. Rick turned laid back into an art form. He was either a Zen master or just shy, but it worked to his advantage. I remember him telling me that they had drastically cut his salary on the Letterman show. "Oh my God," I said, "that's terrible. What did you say to them?" Rick replied, "I told them, whatever." I've never met anyone else living in the 5 boroughs, especially one of Jewish extraction, with an attitude like that. Our mutual friend, the late Herb Graff, once said to me, "Rick is the luckiest guy in the world I ever met. Everything comes so easy to him." But I don't think it was luck. Shecky was really smart.
Let me get the light in here. Is that okay?
I take B12 test.
Yeah.
So,
It'll help you.
well, as you can see, I have too much stuff. But I've gotten better.
Yeah, so how do you start to talk about all the stuff here?
It's my grandmother, my grandfather, my dad, and I think Cy. Jerry's not in that picture.
We'd go to the beach during the summer twice every weekend, pretty much.
And I would go almost every day.
It was in Atlantic Beach, which is a small community between Long Beach and Rockaway Beach.
And by the way, it's also a mob enclave.
Oh.
The Godfather part of it it wasn't filmed there, but it was set there. And was it Nancy whose father had a grocery
No.
store? On the...
Gail Cuss.
Oh, Gail. That's whose father.
And her father ran the grocery store like about 2 blocks from our grandparents' house on the beach. It was a small world. Later, he sold the store and he went to work at Zabar's.
Oh, you're right. That's right. He was one of those people, if you knew Zabar's, they have special fish for, quote, the good customers.
I remember one time we went in there with Dad, and he goes to Kenny, "How's the sturgeon?" And Sturgeon said, he goes, "The sturgeon's really good."
Michael didn't like tuna.
No, your dad would eat tuna.
Oh, he would make a wacky tuna combination.
What do we call it? Tuna surprise. He would take a Cuisinart, put like a can of tuna or 2, massive amounts of mayo, massive amounts of onions, And it just, it just looked like slimy glop.
And he would sit in his chair up in his bedroom.
And the chair had this big hole in it. A lot of it would drop into this hole.
Yes.
It was like this black hole that was kind of shiny and oily. It was really scary, like a Stephen King movie. It's like, don't even look in there.
You still have the chair?
No. The chair was right here, and he'd be sitting here
In the tuna chair.
in a tuna chair watching B-westerns from the 50s.
Or cheesy science fiction movies.
Yeah.
What is this too, Rick? This signature over here?
I can't see.
The little.
It's Bob Kane, who spent 40 years telling you he created Batman, which is not true. It's like Stan Lee, I created this, I created that. No, you didn't. Steve Ditko created Spider-Man. Jack Kirby created the Fantastic Four. But, you know, it's like...
He did this one thing he can, well, maybe it's not undeniable, but that he did create Jason Lee.
Yeah, but Stan Lee's uncle ran the business. That's how he got his job.
Thank you. And I just want to say, after hearing that last talk about Rick, it reminded me that when I was a teenager, when we were both teenagers, that I won an argument about an old movie with him. And I'm sure that's the only one that ever happened, but it sticks in my memory. So for breakfast, I'm going to have this microphone. So we're here to celebrate the life of Richard Scheckman. And some of the names, when he was a little kid, when we were little kids and teenagers, he was Ricky. Then he became Rick, and Shecky to a lot of you, and Richard Gary Scheckman to our mother when she was upset with us. All right. You know, after Rick passed, you know, I've spent a lot of time in the last 3 months reflecting on my relationship with him and how really close we were. We lived in the same house for 23 years together, including 7 or 8 years where we lived in the same room, not out of necessity, because we both had bad dreams when we were really young, and we said, let's share a room together. And that really worked. And then I became a teenager, and, you know, I just needed my own room. Rick and I, you know, in that clip, it was take me out to the ball game. And that baseball was a really integral part of our relationship. Our dad took us to games, Yankee games. We were big Yankee fans. Our grandfather got us tickets to the 1964 World Series. We played catch. We lived across the street from a school along a road, which you couldn't do this today, but at the time there was hardly any traffic, and we would have a catch across the road pretty much any time we could. And Rick turned me on to ice hockey, which not only became a spectator sport, but probably the sport that I love to play the most, and one of our children likes to play still. 1978, we went to a Yankees-Boston game in September. And that was the year of Bucky Dent. It was the year when the Yankees had this huge comeback, trailing the Red Sox by more than 10 games in the summer and eventually winning. And we went to a game in September. It was an amazing game. You know, our family, I'm going to talk about our family. Rick never married, had no children. Our family, we have 4 daughters. They're all here. We now have a son-in-law and a 3+ year boyfriend. That's pretty impressive. And all our daughters loved Rick. The older ones, you know, they would go over to his house with me, and he would offer them like 2 baseball cards each. And they'd leave with about 10 each. Or comic books, you know, they'd say, here, you have a comic book, you have a comic book, you have a comic book. They'd leave with 4 each. You know, and then Maddie, because she's about 10 years younger, we didn't quite go as often, particularly after she was 5, because we'd moved to Colorado. But Rick liked to come to Colorado. Now, Rick was not an outdoors person. Okay. And I am. There are differences, you know, and, but Rick loved to come to Colorado. And he even talked about buying some land and building a house to retire, which unfortunately never came around. But he came out once in the winter, a few times in the spring. We took him on a few very short hikes. We took him up the gondola. We took him up the gondola to have lunch skiing when I was skiing with Maddie. And so he loved Colorado. And Thanksgiving we always came back, really in the last 10 years, to New York for Thanksgiving. Most of the time, we'd stay at the Peninsula Hotel and have the buffet there. One time in East Hampton, and Rick would join us, and you know that was kind of a highlight with stuff with him. And of course, earlier we would go see the Thanksgiving parade at the Letterman's offices. I'm going to say now that as a tribute to Rick, and it's funny, I wrote this the day that he passed away. And about a week ago or so, I was approached by Rebecca, Randy, and Kathy, you know, would you do a top 10 list? So this one I'm going to have to read. Okay, now, I'm not a professional. I've never done this before. I know this is a hard crowd for this particular type of thing. So, the top 10 memories of my brother Rick. Number 10, climbing into his crib is my earliest memory. 9, playing catch across Radnor Road. 8, eating massive watermelon slices in the back seat of our Oldsmobile and trying to spit seeds out the window at 65 miles per hour. 7, Rick trying to throw butterscotch pudding at me and spilling on his bed. 6, Rick's horse racing system. Number 5, Rick as best man at my first wedding. Number 4, Rick's movie club near the Port Authority. It was kind of scary, to be honest with you. Number 3, going to Mystic, Connecticut with Rick. 2, Rick with our children. And the number 1 memory of Rick, Thanksgiving with Rick at Letterman Studio. And one more thing I do want to mention, that, you know, Sarah, my spouse of 26 years, you know, brought Rick into the family, really brought our family together. And, you know, Rick, I could tell, really appreciated her sisterly love. And thank you for that. And I also want to thank specifically Rebecca, who put a huge amount of production time into this, and Maddie, who supplied snacks.
The famous Motion Picture Actors Home in Woodland Hills, California, has an adjunct facility endowed by Shecky's generosity.
We would like to present a tribute put together by the grateful residents.
Thank you. And now, without further ado, here's a tribute to our pal, Shecky.
I'm really bad at this. I'm Rick's partner in Film Archives, Mark Trost. And
Mark, get closer to the mic.
I'm sorry, I'm Rick's partner, Mark. And we've been together forever, and I have a prepared thing because I'm so terrible at extemporaneous speak. So this way, at least, I'll be able to get cogent ideas out without being look like an idiot. Okay. What can I say but I miss Rick? He was not just my business partner, but one of my longest, closest, and most loyal friends. We met in the 70s at a rundown private film club off Times Square that Mike mentioned. It was called Joe's Place. Yes, Joe showed just the kind of movies you would expect to see just off Times Square. That is just off Times Square circa 1935. In those pre-VCR days, Joe, yes, there actually was a Joe, would show the kind of stuff you just couldn't see anywhere else. Old movie serials, B-westerns, low-budget whodunits, with stars I never heard of, and just about everything else, musicals, thrillers, action movies, comedies. Bottom feeder that I am, and everybody knows that, I prefer the easy-to-digest serials and westerns. But Rick, being the Renaissance man that I soon realized he was, liked everything and knew about every movie, every actor, every person behind the camera. Even those who may have visited the set for lunch one day, he knew them too. We soon found we shared not only love of old movies, but of comics, pulp magazines, old radio shows, collecting 16mm films. In every area, Rick eclipsed me with his knowledge, expertise, collecting savvy, and wide swath of interests. He knew how to read a comic book without breaking the spine, not an easy task, and how to get the rarest print at the best price, and the importance of keeping detailed shot lists of everything he viewed. That talent, in no small way, helped start our stock footage company. As our company grew, I marveled at Rick's vast and invaluable knowledge of all things film and business and copyright law, and his incredible ability to play three-dimensional chess to figure out the exact outcome of a given set of circumstances. Rick was essentially the company's consigliere, not just giving advice, but always giving the absolute right advice. Most every week I would call to ask him if he thought we could get away with, license a particular clip to a client without incurring any legal difficulties. Rick would give my questions long, careful consideration, about 10 or 15 seconds, and always give me the right legal answer, along with an accurate estimate of how much he thought we could bill for the clip. As everyone knows, Rick collected everything. Baseball cards, comic strips, original art, movie journals, sculptures of Scrooge McDuck, 1930s fortune magazines, old radio shows, and strangely, most anything having to do with some old British actor named Mr. George Arliss. That's how he was billed, Mr. George Arliss. He even had a painting of Mr. George Arliss above his fireplace mantel. Yes, Rick was a fan of most everything and everyone that had peaked in popularity long before anyone of us was born. At some point, Rick realized it was time to sell off some of his enormous collection, although that Mr. George Arliss painting was off limits. Since we were partners in Film Archives, it seemed only natural to partner in selling his collections. Perhaps a 16mm print of a Bosco cartoon he discreetly liberated when he worked at Channel 5 as a college intern, or a comic book originally bought for 25 cents and now worth considerably more, or a print of a Three Stooges short with Curly, which brought in the big bucks. The list was quite endless. I painstakingly photographed, described, and posted each item on eBay. Inevitably, the moment it went live, Rick would make the auction more interesting to him by strategically bidding up the piece. On far more than one occasion, Rick won his own auction. I would then have to cancel the bid, relist the whole thing, and hope Rick would tire of winning it a second or even a third time. It was quite a game, at least for him. Whenever I expressed my dismay, Rick would simply assert, "At least we got a good price for it." So, after my wife and I moved to Los Angeles each year, we were not in town. We for his birthday, we would send Rick a box filled with stuff I thought would appeal to his vast array of interests. Mostly these things I found at flea markets, estate sales, moving sales, in somebody's awful basement somewhere. You'd think it would be easy to find a Mr. George Arliss artifact, but not so. More typically, the birthday box would feature an old photo of the To Tell the Truth panel, a 1960s Batman glass, and a Doc Savage book that also included Burns and Allen on the cover. And we found it in his house. Here it is. Burns and Allen are right there, along with Doc Savage. Randy recently told me most of these little treasures I would send him in the birthday box were met with the classic Rick smirk. Not sure if that meant approval or disdain, but it was pure Rick. Sadly, I had started collecting items for this year's birthday box, shortly before he passed. If anyone would like a copy of The Life and Art of Fred Allen, here it is. I'm sure he wants you to have it, but he probably read it already anyway. For all this and more, I so miss my friend Rick. I miss his advice and flawlessly wise counsel. I miss his pontificating on the merits of Mr. George Arliss, even though I've yet to make it entirely through one of George Arliss's movies. I miss selling Rick's great stuff on eBay, despite his auction antics. I also miss that trademark smirk. I miss all of this more than I could have ever imagined. And I don't think I will ever stop missing him. Thanks.
Hi, it's Daniel. I was going to say about Shecky, landing my internship at the show was the highlight of my life at that moment and the start of my career. But it almost was the end of my career also because of Shecky. I was, as many interns were, placed on the front desk to answer phones. And about a week in, Shecky had me removed from phones because one of his friends had called and asked if he was there, and I said, "I'll check." And Shecky did not think that was funny at all and had me promptly removed. Nonetheless, I will always love Shecky and, thinking of him constantly and sending my best to all of you in New York.
I have so many great memories of working with Shecky and knowing Shecky. Of course, since it was Shecky, most of those are in black and white. He was truly IMDb before there was IMDb. Rest in peace, my friend.
Shecky was the first person at late night to talk to me. I now love everybody on the staff, but it was a really tough place to arrive at. But Shecky made it okay. He talked to me, he asked me questions. It was almost like he was saying, just give them a month or two and they'll be really nice to you, which of course they were. He was like everybody's brother. He was like the mascot of the show, but not in a demeaning way, because I think that everybody who knew him just really adored him, and he will be missed.
He was an exceptional human being, and his spirit is still with us. I hate to sound like I'm name dropping or anything, but apparently he used to have lunch with this kid that was purportedly a bit of a troublemaker at his school. They'd go back to, this is an elementary school, I guess, in the 60s. They'd cross the street and go to my grandmother's kitchen, have some lunch, and then go back to school. And it was Al Roker's younger brother. I appreciated that so many people really cared about him and took care of him and traveled with him and spent time with him. He obviously was very charismatic and interesting, so I can see why He drew that crowd, but also in all seasons of his life, so many people have been there for him.
We just wanted to say, as writers at Letterman, we will always remember and appreciate how fun it was to write Shecky into bits. He was always down to play any role, even when it involved spending hours in makeup, dressing up as Snooki, or, as I'm sure everyone has seen, having relations with a fax machine. Shecky played every role exactly how we imagined, and he always got a big laugh. And as writers, you really can't ask for more than that.
Yeah, and the other thing is he was always so supportive of us when we were on our way up or trying to work our way up from receptionist or assistants to writer. I'll never forget the time when I was trying to be a writer and I had to write jokes on like a legal pad, and after a while I just felt bad handing in these, handwritten jokes. So I finally said to Shecky, and I said, I didn't know him that well, but I said, is there a way I could possibly get a computer? And Shecky just said, just steal one. So I went into an office and stole a computer. This loss really, really cuts deeply, and we will miss him forever. We love you.
Rick and I go back a long, long time, and I have really good memories of my holidays with him, birthdays, Christmas, Thanksgivings, other activities that we did together as a family. And I just want to tell you, he was very endearing and very affectionate towards me and caring. He would always pat me on the shoulder and say, everything's going to be all right, Mia. And he was always great to my children, and he was wonderful uncle to them. And he would buy them all these videos or get these videos that no one else could get so that my kids could watch some of the shows they loved. And I'm just glad I knew him. And I really am so glad that he was in my life.
I was Shecky's intern, and he and Kathy were, basically responsible for me ending up working on the show because they were so supportive, and they were always very helpful to me. And I remember one time Rick had seen a short film of mine that I had done in college, and he said to me, well, why don't you bring your film in and we'll get it transferred for you. You can use it to show, you have to send it anywhere or anything. And I said, transfer it. And he said, well, transfer it to video. And so I did, and he transferred it, and it was incredibly nice because I didn't have 2 cents to scrape together. So it was just a very nice gesture of his.
I've been thinking about this for a while, and it would have been easier to roast Shecky than to honor him. Let's face it, even Shecky would agree he had some roast-worthy qualities. Shecky and I met in the early days of late night at NBC and became friends working long hours in the edit bays. Back then, during dark weeks, we would occasionally take a vacation, which almost always turned into an adventure. The last time I saw him, we had dinner together at Musso and Frank, his favorite Hollywood restaurant. Shecky ordered calf's liver steak. Who the hell eats calf's liver? Classic Shecky. He was one of a kind, and I'll miss him.
I knew of Rick long before we ever talked because we were part of a group of cinephiles in New York in the late 60s and early 70s. We never talked. We nodded at each other, but we never talked. That is until 1972, when MoMA had its big Paramount retrospective. On the last night, I knew I wanted to talk to Rick, and I approached him and I said, what do you think of some of these really rare titles? And we started to talk and talk. And eventually we were moved over to Hamburger Heaven on 53rd between Madison and 5th, where we talked some more. We continued talking, and I can honestly say that we never ran out of topics to talk about and discuss. And I've already found myself really missing Rick a lot.
I know Shecky would love a really good writer's strike. Here's to Shecky.
My dad and my uncle were raised Jewish, but my sisters and I were not. When my grandmother died, I remember being at her graveside, and they were going to say a prayer at the graveside. And they all gave us these cards, and it's got the mourner's prayer on it. And I remember turning to Uncle Rick and I said, Uncle Rick, I don't speak any Hebrew. I've never said this prayer. And I remember him turning to me and he said, don't worry, stand next to me, mumble a little, make some hacking noises, and you'll be fine. And that was just sort of his offbeat sense of humor.
I'm really going to try to get through this without laughing. It's the one Shecky story I want to tell, and it's one night after the show, and the writers were in the conference room on 14, and we're trying to come up with an act 2 for the next day, and somebody says, "What about let's check in at home with Shecky," and we sort of laugh at the premise. We know we're not going to do it. And then Tommy Ruprecht says, I don't know what I want for dinner. What would you like? Life-size cutout of Leonard Maltin?
Rick was a dear friend and an important person to both Steve and I in our work.
Yeah, Rick was a great guy. He was like the soul of generosity. I mean, I first got to know him like 35 years ago. In 1990, I was doing a series and someone recommended, well, why don't you talk to Rick when you're looking for films? And I contacted Rick and he was immediately said, whatever you want. And it was like that for the next 35 years. And, Ben and I just want to say thanks for everything,
Rick.
We're here at Studio 6A, and I just want to say thank you to Shecky for hiring me for my internship and giving me a career in late night TV.
And I want to say thank you so much for all your graciousness and kindness. I so appreciate it. Miss you, love you.
Thank you, Shecky.
After Rick's passing, I was reading many of the obituaries and articles about him, and they all referenced the term Shecky footage, which is something we used to say all the time at the show. If you needed something strange or odd or rare or footage of a monkey washing a cat, we would put in the script, insert that, weird, strange Shecky footage here. My hope would be the Oxford English Dictionary would include Shecky footage as one of their new words. I think that would be a very nice tribute to him. We will miss you. You are gone too soon, way too soon. And we love you.
When I first got to the show, I was so nervous to meet everybody, and I knew who Shecky was, but he put me at ease quicker than anybody because he was a nerd like me. We spoke the same language. Not a week would go by without him popping into my office to ask me my thoughts on the latest trailer or to tell me some comic book news or loan me an issue, many of which I think I still have. Shecky was the best, and I'm going to miss him.
Shecky not only had an encyclopedic knowledge of all things film, he also had an encyclopedic knowledge of all things late show and late night. And he used it to such great advantage. There were plenty of times where I would screw up on the show, mess something up royally, go back to my office at the end of the day and feeling bad and feeling down. And the one person who would always find their way to my office was Shecky. And he would come in and he would check on me. And he would also use that vast knowledge to find some anecdote of some late show staffer from many years ago who screwed up much, much worse than I ever did.
Shecky also saved our segments quite often, actually, because many times we'd be nowhere with a guest and have no ideas. And that's when Shecky would come to the rescue. In fact, Mike, I think we have a clip.
There are some people you're always glad to see. Other people, when you see them turning the corner, you think to yourself, oh shit, here comes so-and-so. I was always glad to see Shecky. Not just because he always had the best gossip. He knew more about movies than IMDb. And of course, it's impossible to imagine any of the shows without Richard Scheckman. But Shecky footage was crucial to so much on what was occasionally a comedy show. Now, I don't know if there's a place we go to when each of our individual shows closes. But I hope there is. And I hope if I run into Shecky there, he's not thinking to himself, oh shit, here's Jerry Mulligan.
He was very sweet and loving and had us over when we were growing up. You know, I was just exposed to so much media when I was growing up. You know, we went to the David Letterman studios and sat in the editing booths and just watched him there. And it's just something that was so normal in our lives. I'm just thankful for the time that I had with him and for the love that he did give. And he always said, I love you. We all love Uncle Rick, Shecky, Rick, Richard, Ricky. You have many names and many hats.
It was November of 1995. We were in LA for a week of shows, and I was with Shecky and a couple of people, and we got word that Itzhak Rabin had just been assassinated. And I remember Morty walked in the room, and Shecky had his little koosh ball, and he said, Morty, did you hear about Rabin? I think about that a lot. Shecky, I hope you are in a better place. I hope you are scamming some free lunch in Heaven's videotape room, and that you are in a magical place where videos abound of cats washing monkeys for a change. We miss you, buddy.
Shecky, 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 Shecky. Here's Kathy.
Well, this is very sad for me because Shecky was such a great guy, and I loved having conversations with him in my office and just talking about everybody on the show. And he was always just very loyal. He was a loyal friend to everybody, and that's it. I'm sorry I can't be there.
Shecky, we miss you. You're a cool guy.
You're a wonderful guy.
Hi, everybody. Dave Letterman. Glad to be here. Thank you very much for including me. I would be crushed if I couldn't be part of this. I'm sorry, by the way, that I'm not there with you in person, but my phone was disconnected. So, thinking about Shecky, many things come to mind. First of all, Shecky worked with us on the show for years and years and years. And interesting, if you go back and look at the records and talk to people, no one actually knows how he got the job. But boy, did he become invaluable in a heartbeat. What do we know about Shecky? He loved going on those cruises. And I didn't know this. The guy was very smart. He'd go on the cruise, pretend he had the norovirus, and then he'd get another free ticket to go on another cruise. Who would have thought? But that's how Shecky worked, and God bless him. Whenever you would see Shecky in the halls, I don't know that I ever saw Shecky in the hall, but part of the show, part of the workings of the show, undeniably, Shecky. I mean, without Shecky, would we have had this? That's right. The one thing people remember about the Dave Letterman show, a monkey washing a cat. God bless you, Shecky. We miss you. Rest in peace, my friend. Is there money in this for me?
Great, that's a hard act to follow. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Alex Bennett, and I'm here because, and it seems weird for me to be here because about 3 months before Shecky left us, I was talking to him on the phone, and I said, you know, I just realized, I said, I'm 83 years old, and you're only 67, so somebody's going to have to speak at my memorial, and I hope you promise to. Well, he broke that promise to me. And I can't tell you how much I miss this guy. I want somebody to stand up here. Steve Weiner, would you stand up a second? Because this is the seed right here of my relationship with Shecky. What happened was about 45 years ago, he invited me to Shecky's birthday party because, as he put it, Shecky was a fan of mine because I had a radio show. And he would be thrilled by me being at his birthday party. And he has always referred to that moment as me being Shecky's present. And I've always thought, what a cheap gift. Anyway, from that time on, I can't remember my life without Shecky. It wasn't one of those kind of relationships, you know, where you don't see somebody for 5 years and then all of a sudden you see them again. No, Shecky was in my life constantly for 45 years. And when I look back on that, it just amazes me that that amount of time has passed and that I knew him that long. The other thing that that Steve did, and for all the Letterman people that are here, none of you would have known Rick without Steve, because what Steve did is he's the guy that lobbied to get Rick working with late night. So really, if you knew Rick, you knew it because of Steve. Knew of him because of Steve. It's just to sit here and to try and coalesce 45 years of what was, I consider, my most important male relationship in my life is impossible. I mean, there were every day I'd come up with different ideas about this speech and the kind of things that I would say and the kind of things I needed to talk about. And there were just so many of them that I can't even begin to start here. But I will tell you that what Rick did was he left me with a piece of information that really has been important to my life. Upon coming back from Antarctica, I said to him, "Did you see the penguins?" And he said, "Yes, thousands of them." And you know what the worst thing in the world is? Penguin shit. I will never look at another David Attenborough documentary in the same way again. But that was his advice to me. You know, years ago when George Gershwin died, his best friend, Oscar Levant, who nobody even knows who I'm talking about here, was asked what he thought. And his answer was, "Yesterday, George Gershwin died, but I don't have to believe it if I don't want to." And that's the way I feel about Shecky. He left us about 3 months ago, but, you know, I don't have to believe it if I don't want to. So Shecky is still with me at all times. He's with me any time that I see something on television that I want to ask him about. I go reaching for the phone, and then they say he's not there, so I look up in the air and I ask him the question. This is a man who is, I can't tell you the incalculable effect he had on my life and all the people around me. And what I would like to do right now is something that I think is the ultimate show business accolade. If everybody would stand up and let's applaud for Richard Scheckman, okay? So ever since I heard that Rick had passed, I've been reminiscing about those early days at late night and about Rick. And, you know, when I think about it, Rick and I were really joined at the hip. I remember early on just following him around the office like a little puppy dog. He taught me how to dress. He taught me how to walk. And he also taught me not to take any shit from anybody, especially Dave. Rick basically taught me how to be a man. And he also never let me forget that Fatty Arbuckle was framed. But when I think about it, those were glorious days back then, working with Rick in the 80s in New York City. But Rick, as you all know, really didn't come alive till after work. These were the waning days of Studio 54, and trust me, Shecky and I hit that motherfucker every night of the week. And invariably, the evenings would always end the same way, with me out on the dance floor, and I would hear that familiar voice, "Okay, see you tomorrow, Chrissy." And then I would look, and he'd be on his way out the door with the most beautiful girl in the joint, and I'd be left like a schmuck doing the twist with Divine. Not the Divine that you're thinking of, but actually Andy Devine, the character actor. I had met him at one of Rick's infamous Midsummer Night Dream parties. That's also where Leonard Maltin turned me on to acid. So Rick, thank you for the memories. I know you're up there right now. You're probably kibitzing with Hal Roach, or maybe you're kicking Robert Osborne in the nuts, or maybe you're playing chess with Bob Pook. I don't know. But I love you. I miss you. God bless you. Now it's time for me to go to bed.
Well, thanks for whoever put me after that video. I'm David Pierce, a longtime friend of Rick's, and I'm here because part of who I am today is because of Rick. If you don't know who Oscar Levant is, you won't necessarily know who Ben Hecht was, but he was a newspaperman and screenwriter. And in his autobiography, he has a phrase which has always stuck with me, is that we play out our lives on an emptying stage. And that's how I feel, because Rick has gone off from us. I first met Rick in 1977. I was living in Raleigh, North Carolina, and there was a Cinecon in Minneapolis, Cinecon 13. Raleigh's not particularly close to Minneapolis, but a bunch of us got in a car, and we no, please take the slide down. Take the slide down. That comes in later, thanks. So we drove 24 hours each way. And in addition to seeing films I'd always wanted to see, I met some people who had influenced the course of my life, and Rick was first on that list. Friendly, non-judgmental, still finding his own way, Rick took me under his wing, and we became lifelong friends. I would stay with Rick when I needed a place to crash near New York. We'd go to dinners, see films in the city, compare notes, catch up. Rick got this job at a TV show, which I figured would last a year or two, while I chose a job with the federal government, partly for job security. Turned out Rick's job was more secure than mine. Rick had many, many things that I, could only dream of owning, but I had one thing he desperately wanted, and that was an autographed copy of George Arliss's autobiography. So I was very happy to be able to give him that. We drifted apart somewhat when I got married, and then when I moved to the UK. And then when all of that ended, Rick was there to help me through my personal situation. No one could have been prouder than he was when I started writing books and when I got my current job at the Library of Congress. Rick had long told me about his purchase of a large library of 16mm prints of silent comedies and features from the Willoughby Peerless Camera Store. And one of my proudest accomplishments at the library was being able to acquire those films for the National Collection. So the Rick Scheckman collection is now housed at the Library of Congress. I encouraged Rick to come to the Pordenone Silent Film Festival in Italy. I promised him that I'd guide him from the Venice airport to his hotel, ensure that he never had a meal alone, and Rick had a great time and came each year until the pandemic. He did miss a few events because he'd go to his room to listen to baseball games. My girlfriend and now wife, Claire Lockhart, accompanied me to Pordenone one year, and much to my surprise, the pictures that were posted on Facebook by Rick included Rick and Claire, but not me. And that leads to my final story, one that Rick liked to tell. At Pordenone, we'd become friends with Craig Schreiber and ended up spending that New Year's at Craig's house in Bedford Hills, just north of Manhattan. Craig made a wonderful meal, we watched a film, drank more than a little bit of wine. Rick had not originally planned to stay over, but he did. And the next morning, we awoke to an overnight snowstorm that had turned our world into a New Year's Day winter wonderland. Rick and Claire went out the front door to see the snow. You can put it up now. And Rick quickly posed by Claire in her pajamas, took a picture, and quietly posted the photo on Facebook. Soon after, Claire's phone went buzzing with text messages. Her friends wrote her, "We didn't know you were on the East Coast," and others that they didn't know Rick and Claire were going together. So Rick knew he was being naughty, but as always with Rick, it was innocent fun, and that was one of the best things about Rick. He enjoyed innocent fun, he didn't hold grudges too much, and believed that the purpose of life was to enjoy life. I enjoyed knowing Rick for nearly 50 years, miss our regular phone calls and visits. We're holding a film festival at the Library of Congress in 2 weeks. Rick was so looking forward to attending and being part of the festival that it's hard to believe that he won't be there. But we'll dedicate a program to his memory.
I'm Steve Young, longtime Letterman writer and friend of Shecky's. For years, I've entertained myself and occasionally others by putting Shecky's name into songs where it doesn't belong. Here's a brief sample. I wish that I had Shecky's job. Do. Where can I find employment like that? Be my Shecky, my one and only Shecky. Oh, Shecky, you're so fine, you blow my mind. Hey, Shecky. Shecky, I need your footage. Got to have all your footage. There's no Shecky like our Shecky, like no Shecky we know. Shecky, you're a rich man, baby, you're Rick Scheckman. Shecky, you're Rick Scheckman too. There's lots more, but I suspect that's plenty.
Hi, I'm Leonard Maltin, and I knew I go back a ways with Ricky. That's how I knew him, as Ricky. And I never quite got used to calling him Rick. I trained myself to do it because I think he preferred that as he got older. But I have a letter here, handwritten letter, that he sent me in 1973. And apparently we were already acquainted because it says, "Dear Len," and it's talking about my latest book, which is on Walt Disney's films. And in this, he was subscribing to my fanzine, Film Fan Monthly, and he sent a renewal check and this letter. And I was packaging a series of film books, and he criticizes each one. Or he rates them. He rates them. The Curtis Film Series now has published 5 books, of which 3 are great, 1 is fair, and 1 is bad. There's no meanness in that statement. You know, it's just, he says it as a statement of fact. And I never felt as if I penetrated a certain wall of reserve that Ricky had. We traveled a lot. We had a group of cinephiles. Some of them are here today. Phil Serling was our ringleader. Talking about people who left us too soon. But we really saw the world together. We went on a Baltic cruise, a Mediterranean cruise, a Hawaiian cruise. with like lots of sea days to do as we pleased. And Ricky always took a better cabin than any of us had. He had a suite. He spent freely, and he enjoyed being able to do that. And he was the most gracious host. He was generous to a fault, kind of like Bill Everson, from whom he took several lessons. But Bill was literally generous to a fault, and I think Ricky, that made a deep impression on Ricky. And my daughter, our daughter, Jessie, knew him her whole life because she was on those cruises with us. And she's very angry at him for dying because she now has a 1.5-year-old baby named Daisy who won't get to know Ricky. And I understand how she feels, but it would be hard to describe our relationship. Words just don't cut it sometimes. He was a good, loyal friend. Snarky, but kind-hearted, good-hearted. And you don't meet too many people like that. And so he does live on in our minds and in our hearts.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. I especially want to thank the Film Forum for being so gracious and opening up their doors to us. And Bruce and Chad and Steve, who's not here today, but the whole team has been amazing. Thank you to the entire Scheckman family who, not only today and through planning this event, but really we were a unit in the hospital too. You know, it was a team, you know. Especially thank you to Randy and Susan who were there with him for a long time. I've heard everybody speak, and I understand saying, you know, he had a lot of reserve. There's always this like part of him you couldn't reach, right? Everybody here had a different relationship with him, and when he died, and the pouring out of grief in Facebook was just this amazing, amazing thing, right? Everybody started to learn about everybody else. And then we were like, but who are you? And then we sent out the invitation, and it was, everyone identified themselves to me. I was this to him. I was this to him. I was his friend for 45 years. Just this amazing body of friendship that he built, which is just as much a collection as these other collections he had. And let me tell you about his house. I don't think too many friends could fit in there because that's a lot of stuff. And Randy's been working on it for weeks and weeks. And I think we counted at least 8 DVD players. He did not even have that many rooms. Portable DVD players, which I guess he took on cruises, there were 7. All of them really worked. I couldn't figure out why he kept ordering. But he collected all of you, and you were all special to him, and he spoke about you all the time. So you should feel loved from him, even though he may not have showed it, because he was really prickly is a good word to describe him. Snarky is a good word to describe him. I used to sit in the control room at NBC, and there was no seats for us. So we would sit on a shelf next to each other, and throughout the whole show, every commercial break, he'd just pour his cynicism into my ear. And yet I still developed as a normal human being. Got married and had 2 daughters who he considered his nieces as well. They called him Uncle Shecky. He snuck them comic books, Powerpuff. But he was a great friend, and he was a great friend to all of us. So I feel fortunate to be here today with all of you so that we can celebrate his life. We're going to look at the Letterman package that most of you saw on Facebook next, but I think it's worth watching again. And then we're all invited to go to a bar across the street, not the big one, the little one next to it called the Brooklyn Air. We're going to have drinks for about an hour, and we're going to have a lot of crazy food, bar food and stuff. So please join us there. And thank you again.
Are you fed up with hours you waste showering and grooming every day? Boy, I know I am. And that's why I was so excited when some quick-thinking engineers developed the shower phone, the shower radio, and now, of course, this. It's the shower copier. It's a stylish symbol of executive status with only a minor risk of electrocution. Oh, Jesus. Oh, my God. Damn. God. The hell. It's apparently cold water. Hell out of here. All right.
All right, Elvis, come on in. Come on in, Elvis. There he is.
Elvis!
Shut up. You didn't see nobody here. Now, Elvis and I, we're just going to hang out here for a little while.
Just until things blow over.
Yeah, that's right. Hey, Elvis, looky here. Elvis, she's pretty. You want her?
No, but I would like some of that pie.
Hey!
What the hell does this have to do with Elvis? Who is this guy? He doesn't even look like Elvis.
Oh, I know. It's eerie, isn't it? That's my good friend, Rick.
Yeah.
I know, we didn't realize until we put the glasses on.
Yeah, I don't want to embarrass you, but are you drunk?
He's always drunk.
I'm sorry, Elvis?
He's always drunk.
He's always drunk. Thank you very much. Go back to sleep in your pie. The real star of the piece, film coordinator Rick Scheckman. Rick, come on out here. Rick, nice job. Rick Scheckman, ladies and gentlemen. You know what we needed there? We needed some footage of a guy getting into a car and getting blown up, and you came through and got the footage. Of course, it was old, and it was grainy, and it was obviously dated, and the guy looked nothing like Paul, but it worked in the piece, and for your ongoing excellence as film coordinator, we're giving you cable television's highest honor, the coveted ACE Award. Congratulations. Yes, nice job. Rick Scheckman, ladies and gentlemen. This, the whole thing couldn't be more pathetic. So now, if you were Elvis and you're still alive, you could suddenly fall ill or get into some kind of accident. Why take the chance that paramedics will dismiss you as dead for years? Play it safe and wear one of these right there. It says, "I'm Elvis and I'm alive," medical alert bracelet. Thank you, Elvis. How are you feeling?
Never been better, Dave.
Oh, good. Please help yourself to the hot buffet.
Oh, great. Thanks.
How long have you worked for the Wax Museum? Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah. You know, this proves one thing. Not everybody looks good in a uniform. No, hey, Shecky, you look great. But it just seems to me like the people of Panama deserve far better than this sham, this farce. This is no election. This is an insult to democracy. Somebody should go down there and take care of this Noriega guy and run all of those idiots out of office. Those people deserve far better than they're getting. And I think somebody ought to do something about it. Oh my God, something has gone. Just a minute, I'm going to see who's behind it. Hey, who, you know, I was nearly killed out there. What the hell happened? A sandbag came down and nearly got me. Biff, was it you? Did you drop that sandbag?
No.
Was it you?
No, it wasn't me, Dave.
Rooney, was it you? Are you sure? Generalissimo Ramirez, did you have anything to do with that sandbag? Are you sure? Did you have anything to do with that mustache? All right, but I'm going to get to the bottom of this. I was almost killed out here. Getting a great shave is actually one of the best parts of my day, and I think one of the secrets, although there are considerably many, is going to the same barber year after year. And that's Enrique right there. First, he drapes my face in hot towels and lets me relax and moisten up for a little bit there in the shop. Next, using his own secret European shaving technique, he gives me a wonderfully close shave every time. And finally, Enrique's only Own personal blended icy hot aftershave lotion. Believe me, Enrique is a skincare genius.
It's time for morning roll call at Crazy Paul's compound, located right here in the game room of my house.
It's convenient to all 5 boroughs.
Cult activities include grating cheese, asking strangers for gum,
We want gum.
and every Saturday night, a 50s style sock hop.
Never been seen. Videotape, roll it. We thought we had something there. We don't know. Look at that. And it just goes on and on. This next one is a guy dressed up like a cat. This will make you sick. Look at that. Okay, all right, that's seriously. That's enough. That's enough. That's it. Just get it out of there. Seriously. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Rick Scheckman. He is the I need to introduce him. He is the film coordinator here at the Late Show. And this is interesting. You actually have a new fall show this season?
That's right. It's called The Alamo Precinct.
Uh-huh.
It's a police drama set in San Antonio, but it's unlike any show you've ever seen.
Right.
Roll it, Hal. Hi, my name is Shecky. I'm 43 years old. I enjoy computers, old movies, and I've got a great sense of humor. If you're a single woman between the ages of 21 to 50, please call me here at Singles Connection, extension 4538. Thank you.
Now, was that actually a scene from your new show?
Not exactly, Dave.
You don't even have a new show, do you?
No, Dave.
Uh-huh, okay. And by all means, don't worry about standing up straight, okay? You're fine.
Okay, Dave.
Rick Scheckman, everybody, right there.
Okay.
Number 7, film coordinator Rick Scheckman.
Jennifer Lopez is a hellcat in bed.
I'm here with Rick Scheckman, and as you can see, Rick is a very, very big Star Wars fan, and he has a sword there for us. Rick, show us about the sword. How does
Dave,
that work?
it's not a sword.
Uh-huh.
It's a lightsaber. For over 1,000 generations, the Jedi Knights, brandishing these lightsabers, defended peace and justice in the Old Republic before Darth Vader and Emperor Palpatine joined forces to enslave the galaxy.
Everybody's name means something. We got some guys right here. There's some fellows over there. Somebody, you start there, Mike.
My name is Mike Baker, and my great-great-great-grandfather was a baker in a small Irish village.
Interesting, yeah.
That's how it works.
Uh-huh.
All right, and you?
My name is Jack Farmer, and I'm the direct descendant of the 19th century Scottish dairy farmers.
See, that's how that works.
That's interesting.
Baker, farmer,
Uh-huh.
Letterman. It makes perfect sense. Yeah, finally.
My name is Rick, still a virgin at the age of 43. I'm also the direct descendant of the 19th century Scottish dairy farmers.
Okay. Thanks, boys. Nice job.
Picture.
That's Shecky. He's still in his Halloween outfit. I'm here with Rick Scheckman, who is an avid fan and collector of Pokemon. Rick, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dave.
Why don't you tell us just what exactly is the Pokemon?
Dave, Pokemon is a group of 181 magical pocket monsters. In alphabetical order, you have Alakazam, Blastoise, Beedrill, Chansey, Charizard, Clefairy. That's a rare holofoil. Gyarados, he's got a Dragon Rage level of 50.
And number 9, film coordinator Rick Scheckman.
All the Late Show merchandise is made with toxic lead paint.
Mm-hmm. Good. Fine. Thank you. Thank you very much, Rick. Including his shirt. Well, because of our close connection with the Coca-Cola Company, we have the contest winner here with you tonight, with us tonight, and the Heidi Klum dress. Come on out. Here's the Diet Coke contest winner. Ladies and gentlemen, take a bow. Thank you. All right, get out of here. Okay, you're making us all sick.
It's time for Who's Taking a Smoke Break? It's film coordinator Rick Scheckman. Hey, what are you smoking, Shecky?
It's Camel Ultralights hard pack. It's one cool smoke.
Hey, that's great. Smoke 'em if you got 'em, Shecky.
I'm going to ask a staff member, Rick Scheckman, to put away the Late Show Bear. Shecky, put away the Late Show Bear, please. There he is. Thank you, Shecky. Nice job. That's the most exercise Shecky has had in 6 years.
In 1989, Pennsylvania Congressman Burt Wallace was severely injured while trying to send a fax of his genitals.
A little help here. Hello?
A safety reminder from Hewlett Packard.
I'm stuck. Help!
Yippee-ki-yay, Shecky.
I'd like to do a song.
Do a song. Well, I don't know. Do we have time for a song from Elvis? Do we have a song? Well, hurry up, Elvis.
Okay, it's Are You Lonesome Tonight? I wonder if you're lonesome tonight. You know, someone said the world's a stage, and each of us must play his part.
Okay, excuse me, Elvis. I'm sorry. We are out of time now.
Oh, well. Always mind your mama, for she loves you so. And keep taking care of business.
Okay, thank you very much. Elvis Presley, ladies and gentlemen.